Intelligent System for ICU Patient Monitoring and Remote Control of Infusion Pumps. Project developed by Renosci Media Group of the University of La Coruña, in collaboration with the Anesthesiology, Resuscitation and Intensive Cares of Maxillero Hospital of Vigo. First, we will describe the standard protocol of intensive care units. As soon as a patient enters the ICU, the monitoring process starts. The patient's vital signs are read by a Philips monitor. The monitor screen will reflect the vital patient following constants: mean arterial pressure, cardiac index, central venous pressure, temperature, oxygen saturation and heart rate. Based on the monitored parameters, clinical expert will make a decision about whether to maintain the stability of the patient. The nursing staff or clinical manager adjusts the infusion rate of the drug supply. In this example, the dotamen infusion rate is adjusted to 1.5 ml per hour. Infusion pumps carry fusion of Activia, inject the drug, according to the parameterized speed by the clinical staff. We will now explain the operating cycle of the intensive care unit, with the implanted expert system. First, the patient's vital signs are read by the monitor. In this video, we can see the three devices that make up the system: a monitor, the graphical user interface of the expert system, and one or more infusion pumps. Then, the system displays a window for the management of patient profiles. Once we press the button to begin monitoring, the system performs the reading of these constants, reflecting them in the graphic user interface. Here we can see the patient management interface. Each patient has a profile with his or her clinical data and contraindications to the injection of drugs. On this screen we can also configure the different pumps with the type of drugs to inject, as well as their priorities. There is also a tab where we can establish the vital signs thresholds, for example the maximum and minimum cardiac rate. We can also find the monitor settings inputs used in their communication with the system. To begin the monitoring process, simply save your changes and press the Start Monitoring button. The system, based on the parameters read from the monitor for a 120-second cycle, presents a decision to maintain the stability of the patient, taking into account any previously established contraindications in the patient management window. Once the decision is reflected to the clinical expert through the graphical interface, the expert will decide to accept or reject the recommendation. After a 120-second cycle, the system recommends an action to perform. In this case, it recommends to decrease the infusion speed rate of the amine drug to 0. If the clinical expert accepts the recommendation, the system will change the infusion speed rate of the drug remotely, as we can see in the video. The clinical expert is the one with the final say about accepting or rejecting the recommended decision by the system. The decision made by the expert, and all monitored patient data, is stored in a database for further analysis. Based on the decision taken by the expert, the drug speed rate is changed, or not, remotely from the system. The infusion pumps inject the drug according to the infusion speed parameters, entered in the graphical user interface of the system. The pumps can also be modified manually and its parameters are reflected in real time on the visual interface. In this video, we can see how the pumps can be adjusted remotely from the graphical interface. We can appreciate how the injection speed rate is changed in real time, both in the graphical user interface and in the pump. We are also able to modify them manually by adjusting the injection speed rate from the pump itself. We can see how the infusion speed rate is changed manually in the pumps to 1.5 ml per hour and is reflected in the interface.